Welcome to episode 7 of the Life Coaching with Ryan podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I continue my conversation with Moon Ameen on the ownership of growth, and we are specifically focusing on momentum. Ryan from the future here. I told you that you could comment on this series of episodes on my Patreon page at patreon.com/lifecoachingwithryan. However, I discovered that even if I make a post public, it can't be publicly commented on. So please instead go over to lifecoachingwithryan.com, and the post that is pinned at the top is for the Q&A for episode 8. So please go over to lifecoachingwithryan.com and comment on that thread, so I know what questions you want answered or thoughts you have that I can comment on for episode 8. Thanks. So talking about mindset, I think this would be a good place to talk about momentum, generating momentum, maintaining momentum, and how we deal with lagging momentum. Again, whether it's excuses, passion issue, injury, whatever it happens to be, what things that disrupt momentum. So I define momentum as, in this context, as forward movement. Yeah, when we talk about inertia, it's the in motion part of inertia as opposed to the stationary part of inertia, right?
Okay.
So any type of forward movement. Does that seem like a fair baseline for?
I would go even a step further and say any kind of movement, like not even necessarily forward.
Doesn't mean forward.
Doesn't have to be forward. I would just say movement in general, just because just go down to just the basic, just basic principles of life. Your heart stops beating, you're done.
Right.
So something that's stationary is eventually going to be finished, right? That you continue to move, you're consistently moving, then you're going to be consistently progressing through whatever the situation is. So yeah, I would say even more than just moving forward. It's just moving in general, because that's going to discourage people also. Like,
well, okay, let me rephrase that.
What?
Oh, just that. So, for example, I think in terms of intent, right? My intention is to blank, yeah. And so, from that perspective, let's say my intent is wellness, whatever. You could choose your narrow goal, blah 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 blah. So it's taking action in alignment with your intention. So it doesn't have to be a literal forward movement. It could be a lateral movement. But I mean, in the context, I think most people think of backsliding as in either not engaging in the activity they're meant to do, or engaging in activity that is explicitly disruptive or, of their intention. Yeah. So then does that track then for you?
So even with that, so I would say, like, okay, the mind state of, and the approach of looking at those things has to be, is the most important part. It's like saying to yourself, right, like, okay, like it's going back to, again, like, because if you say like forward movement or something that goes in line with the way that I show momentum is that it's something specifically in line in my head that's in line with wherever I'm trying to get, right? Mm-hmm. Then you X out, because we don't know the specific steps. We just got through talking about there's no blueprint, right? So then if you think of it like that, then you X out, you're almost paralyzing yourself out of failing, which is one of the greatest teachers, right? So you're saying to yourself, like, okay, I want to do all of these things and make sure that my attention and all of they all go in line with whatever this goal is, right? Mm-hmm. That's your you have a list, right? Or you have the things, that the steps that somebody told you. But there's there's a bunch of things that if you just tell yourself, like, I'm going to try something today, or I'm going to like let whatever the situation is, that's going to happen. And the main thing I'm just trying to say is giving yourself an opportunity to not shy away from failure. Because
sorry, please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it. The lateral move, the forward move, the whatever. It's like, for me, the reason why it's just more about the movement is it's like, yeah, because you gotta make the mistakes. And if the approach is just do something positive towards whatever a day, then you're gonna X out all this other stuff, as opposed to like just do something with regard, you know what I mean? Just
yeah.
You know, so because
I agree.
People don't want to fail. Like, that's the last thing people want to do is it's like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and that's why what keeps people. That's like the crippling thing, right? Like I'm scared of success, and like I'm this fear of the failure, right? So
right, yeah, no, I think that's a very good clarification, because for me, I don't consider failure a stopping of momentum. I don't see.
You don't.
I don't. No, right. Because I think this is good to clarify, because I did not even consider that you would disagree with me. I figured you were going to refine my statement. So even just in your objection, I think it's really, really valuable, because someone could interpret my use of the word momentum to mean continuous, successful attempts to do something, which is not what I mean. I mean continual attempts to do something, period. I mean acting an intention with a result doesn't mean getting the result you intended. Right?
But I got it. You say that again for the people, because that's
I don't mean taking consistent, successful actions, but taking actions consistently to serve. Because again, you may not get the result that you want out of the action that you take in your journey to get to your ultimate goal.
Right.
Yeah. So because I agree. I think accepting there is no better way to kill your momentum than to not accept failure.
Right.
To expect nothing but success, the first time you fail, you're done. That will absolutely murder your momentum.
And to me, that's and that's why I try to tell people off top, like, just from the beginning, look, you have this momentum now. You come to me with this momentum now. Understand that momentum is going to go away at some point. It's going to come back. There's going to be a time when it goes away.
Right.
You have to recognize
passion. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to recognize that it's going to this time period of it going away doesn't have to be a hindrance to you getting to wherever you need to get to, because if you understand that, oh, this is part of, it's like the guy, there's some random story about the guy who is training his son, and he wakes him up every morning, and they go out and they go running, and he knows the son's like asks his dad, like, when we're going to go running. He asks him every day, how far are we going to run? Right. Mm-hmm. And the dad, so I messed it up. So there's two different like fathers and two different sons. Right. So one takes the son out, and every single day he tells him, the son asks, how far are we going to run today? And the dad says, we're going to run 10 miles. Right. So the kid has it in his head. I already know I have to get through 10 miles so I can process the fact that this is what this is going to be, as opposed to this other kid who he wakes up with his father and he asks his father, how far are we going to run today? And then his dad doesn't say anything. He said, we're just going to run. And with that, he's never there's no even subconscious idea of like, oh, I did 1 mile, so now I'm 9 miles away from accomplishing my goal, or whatever the number is, right? Because that's how that's how we function as humans, right? We see people always talk about that. You see a little bit of progress, then all of a sudden you get re-energized to do whatever the fuck ever it is that you're doing, right? So, people, somebody, it sucks for me because like I'll have some like female clients who, and I just pray that after working out with me for a couple of months that they don't get a compliment from somebody, because the minute they get a compliment from somebody, it's black and white. Some girls are like, yo, I want more sessions, and some girls are like,
I'm done,
Yeah.
And
so, and then so it's like there's that to me that's super, super important, that you understand that the momentum is good, that the momentum that you have, it's going to go away at some point, but that doesn't mean that the ideas about where you're supposed to be going and what you have and your goals, those don't have to go anywhere. Like that's supposed to, those thoughts still should be there. Those ideas should still be there. And the understanding like, okay, this is a down period. All right, so how am I going to deal with this down period to make it the next time I have a down period? Like I had a down period for a week this time. Now how can I make the next one into 4 days or whatever, you know what I mean? Right. Or just get myself out of the slump, because that's learning yourself,
Right. Yeah.
So
when I'm hearing indirectly or underneath what you're talking about is that one antidote to, well, I'm going to talk about non-productive inertia, but I think that will get into a whole separate conversation. So maybe we'll pause on that thought. And I'll just say one way to maintain momentum or to increase the probability of having strong momentum is to set small goals.
Yeah.
That are easy.
And consistently reevaluate, could check in. Yeah.
Because then you have that little moment of like, oh my God, I did it. Right. This goes back to the idea of scaling your goals. So instead of just aiming for the ideal, say what's the least I could do and still be making progress.
Right.
Yeah. There's this idea I learned in my coach training program called Aim Smart. So it's not just, lots of people heard of SMART goals.
Okay.
But the aim part is acceptable, like an acceptable minimum. If I could just, what's the least I could do and still trust that I'm making progress?
Right.
And then you look at the ideal, and say, what am I shooting for? Now, that's still, in my opinion, when I coach people on their goals, I say it still needs to be reasonable and attainable. If you set your ideal so far outside of it, you're not going to know how to land in the middle. Right. Because you're going to go, I'm going to be a worldwide superstar. That is a great ideal that is not in your control. Let's talk about what's in your control. Right? So we set an ideal that can still be lofty, significantly lofty, that might take months or years to accomplish, but we need to set it within reason. And then the M is in the middle, anything in the middle. So I can now scale my goal. And if I've at least done my acceptable, I can be like, yes, I am making progress toward my goal. And anything I do beyond that, especially if my middle goal is a stretch, I'm just going to totally make up numbers. I'm going to do 10 push-ups today. Okay, let's say that I've never done push-ups before in my life and I have an extremely weak upper body. That may not be an acceptable minimum. Let's say I'm literally going to do one push-up a day, and that's going to be anything. And it's fantastic. Do one. My goal is to eventually be able to do 10 straight without stopping.
Right.
Then let's say I shoot for 3.
I was going to say, like, if that's the thing, like you do one push-up today. Do one push-up tomorrow. Like in 3 days, try to do 2 push-ups and watch.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you can't do 2. Cool. Don't do 2. Just do 1. But watch. Like in 3 days, I guarantee 3 or 4 days, whatever, X amount of time, I guarantee that 1 is going to turn into 2. That 2 is going to turn into 5, and that 5 is going to turn into that 10. And then you're going to be looking at people like, you can't do. And the hard part, which is what I have issues with sometimes, and I think you have issues with sometimes, is that we're at a point now where we can do push-ups, and we're even though we understand that there is a time where we couldn't do push-ups, sitting in that space it's ancient. history, right?
Right.
So
Right.
remembering like how it felt to sit in that space is and how what that looks like is it's difficult sometimes, you know, because you're like, yeah, no, like it's obvious, just, you know, start one day and just do a push-up and such and such, right?
Communicating the mastery.
Yeah, and we're saying this, we're the ones who are, you know, but at some point in time we were the ones who were like, shit. So I mean,
there has been nothing better for me than helping other people with their goals, to help me refine and be aware of my own shortcomings in goal setting. Just even having 2 or 3 clients in a row who needed some help setting goals, I recognized how I was going into overwhelm and inadvertently sabotaging myself. And I went, whoa, hold up. Let's go back to the podcasting thing. I realized the way I could hack myself was to make sure that I was lining up guests in order to do interviews, in order to do the recordings, because I was really lagging on doing any direct address type of podcast to relay information.
Right.
So I went, okay, so I need to have some compassion for that. Okay, I'm struggling with that. Well, what is that going to take? Well, that's going to take me not releasing the first podcast, episode 0, episode 1, when I originally anticipated. Well, okay, am I just letting myself out of it? Is this just an excuse? Okay, and then I got to process that and pull that apart.
Right.
Okay, well, okay, yeah, so there's sparse an excuse. I could have pushed harder. I could have asked more people. There are things I could have done. Okay. Did I still use my time wisely? Well, yeah, I've reached out to Moon. I did some scripting. I did some other stuff. Okay, well, so did you make movement towards your goal? Were you taking action in alignment with your intention? Yes. Fantastic. Would it have been better if I'd written it all down? Yes, because then I could have had something to reflect on. People say, Ryan, okay, I'm writing goals like you told me to write goals. Do I really have to write everything down?
Yes.
And I say, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Because now it's concrete.
Yeah.
Right? Now I can reflect on it.
And I mean, I hindsight is 2020. I wish I had written everything down, because I have my clients, remember how you feel today, because how you feel in a month is going to be completely different. And
totally
then how you feel in 3 months is going to be different. And then you're going to be looking at this person who's just starting, and you're not even going to be able to look at, you're going to say like, all right, well, you'll get there. But it's really easy for people to forget. Like you were there too, you know, like, and that they're, because of the fact that they're on to the next rung of to wherever they're going, they lose perspective in the fact that you realize how hard it was for you to just get to this rung? For the longest you were shooting to get to this rung. Now you are to this level. Now you know what I mean? Now you're here and you're telling yourself, I'm not making any progress. It's like, hold on a second. Wait a minute.
Yeah. You know? It's a time compression again.
Yeah. So,
right. And I'm going to do a whole, we're going to have, either between the two of us, we'll have to do it, or certainly I'm going to do it regardless, is talking about time compression when it comes to judgment. That when we look at other people who aren't doing what we've only just recently learned how to do, there's a tendency to be like, you suck, you're a horrible human being because you're not patient. Well, you were the most impatient asshole I've ever met in my life until literally 3 days ago, because you've been consciously working at it for 5 years.
Right.
So your judgment of that person as being an asshole is kind of amusing to me right now, since you've only just learned patience yourself.
Right.
You know, there's a tendency to do that.
Honestly,
that's just human, though. I'm not saying it's like, I'm not judging people who do that. Right. I'm just saying, I'm saying it is amusing. I do that myself. I do it myself. This goes back to the having a sense of humor. It's like, oh wow, I was that asshole. I was that guy. I was that guy who was doing that.
Yeah, totally. It's like the insecurity. I chalk that up to just the insecurities of being. That is, if you want to talk about, you know, the one thing that like animals have, even though we're animals have over us, is there's a lot less insecurities when it comes to their, you know, daily ever, you know, like the you know, the lion and the lioness or whatever. There's not this whole insecurity about like, oh, okay, can I approach the situation? How do I approach it? They you know, it's just embedded in them to do that, right? Yeah. Just like for us, that's not how it is. For whatever reason, it's not embedded in us to understand that insecurities are literally things that don't exist. So,
well, if the thing that's funny about us being animals is our way of being animals is to be social, and our way of evolving was to evolve in tandem with others, to rely on others, to do all of these amazing. There is not a single thing I do every day except for maybe the literal act of breathing and the other basic bodily functions that didn't require some other human. There was a time when humans made their own spear or their own basket and did their own gather, but then once they started doing it with each other, then the industry.
This dude is really good at making spears. All right, cool. You make spears for everybody.
Right. So imagine you pissed everybody off. You may be voted off the island and you're going to die. So I think part of the thing that we forget about us is that we are animals, and part of how we are as animals is to be insecure because we are afraid of being rejected, because rejection means death.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, that's a whole separate, much larger conversation,
Yeah, no, it sucks because you have to get, I mean, every day I would say to everybody, I mean, because of the fact that you see so many people accomplishing stuff like in your face all the time, just telling people like, look, understand that every single day you need to wake up and fight to stay away from your insecurities and stay out of the insecurities, and understand that in some way, shape, or form today you're going to be able to make some type of a difference. Not even trying to sound like some
I know what you mean.
Allstate commercial or whatever it is.
God damn it, Moon! You sound like an Allstate commercial. Stop that shit.
But I mean, I say that, I'm saying that to you. And it's something I say to myself too, because it's a lot of times, you do lose that whole forest for the sake of the trees perspective. When you're in it, and that's something, if nothing else, then reminding yourself and really, really taking a second, whether it's a minute or 2 minutes, to really look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, look, I understand that there's going to be obstacles and such, whatever, but I'm not going to let my insecurities cripple and, sabotage and pause wherever the hell it is that I'm trying to go.
Right.
And then believe that, you know what I mean? Then,
and that takes time and practice to even be able to do that, if we're being real. If we're being
exactly, totally.
Yeah. So we've already been talking for a good long time at this point. So something that I think would be valuable perhaps is if you had to, like, I want for each of us to just talk about major takeaways as we wrap this up.
Right.
For people. So if the TLDR of this whole situation, if they were only able to listen to the last 5 minutes of the podcast,
right.
What core thing would you like them to walk away with? What understanding would you like them to walk away with?
I think for me, the main thing is that we've been speaking about is the learning process and the failing process and the progressing process and all of these different, they're all part of it. Getting to where you want to get, failing, crying, asking for help, not wanting to ask for help, finding out how to ask for help, get these little small, incremental goals that you accomplish. Every single one of those things, along with another list that we can probably come up with of things, those things are, you just have to understand that's all part of it, all of it. And there's no way to get around failing, struggling, loss of momentum, there's no way to get around that and still get to where you quote unquote want to get, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. I would say that for me, the major takeaway is self-compassion. Understanding that we're all trying to accomplish this within the bounds of time. You know, this is not I snap my fingers and suddenly I have the thing that I want. Perhaps one day our species will be capable of that, or perhaps some of us already are. But for the majority of us, right, if we're not talking about normalized exceptionalism, we're not talking about the outliers, we're talking about everyday person. Right. Yeah, the everyday person is going to require some self-compassion. They're going to need some time to set that, to create their mindset of scaling their goal, accepting the ideal will occur over time. What's the least I can do and still move forward? Because that helps, again, break out of rigidity. Ask the question, how can I accomplish what I want to accomplish? Because ultimately, I think for me, and again, I'll spend some time at another time talking more about this idea of non-productive inertia, but that essentially it is going to be a combination of discipline, enacting your commitment, and checking your emotions or using your emotions. Oh, I have to remind myself how much I want this. As soon as I remind myself how much I want this, the excuses magically vanish. They evaporate because all that's left is my deep desire to make this thing happen, right? Rekindling that passion or whatever. There are ways to hack yourself.
Even more specifically than that, because I can just tell you for myself, like that, the whole saying, when you stop or when you feel like stopping, remember why you started. That saying, to me, there's something that they're leaving out of that statement. And that part is like, when you stop, remember why you started and the energy that you had when you started. Because I can sit up here and remember, yeah, I wanted to do this because such and such, but guess what? Today I don't give a shit.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like today I'm depressed, or I'm such and such, or my girl left me, or my dude left me, or, my dog died, or, like, I just didn't feel it today.
Yeah.
And like, so you stopped. And me telling you, like, remember why you started? Yeah, because I wanted to get here. So, but I don't give a fuck because my dog died. Whatever it is, like that, the day that you're like, yo, I'm going to do this, that momentum that you had, or that energy and that passion the way that you approached it on that day, that's just as important as remembering what it was that you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I can just tell you personally that I've done that, and I've been like, cause I've read that on a social media, on a day where I stopped, I read that whole, when you stop, think about why you started. And that should do nothing for me, because like, I'm like, yeah, no, I got it written. I know
a poster over there,
right?
Dream wall or whatever.
You know what I mean? I know exactly why I started, but no, so.
Well, and I think that goes back to the self-compassion too, because part of momentum in my mind is building resilience. And resilience comes from attempting and failing,
right?
Experiencing the emotion, processing that feeling of failure, and choosing to move forward. Because we can actually get really good at failing, i.e. failing forward, as opposed to really good at failing, i.e. letting ourselves with excuses just fall apart. Right. And so I think for me, a lot of this is accepting the emotion, developing self-compassion, and then continuing to make forward, in quotation marks, forward progress.
Yeah.
So making attempts. Right on, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
This was fun.
Yeah. We're going to have to do it again.
This was long as shit. But
hopefully it won't take 2.5 hours to set up everything next time.
No, it was worth it. It was worth it. For anybody, for one person, 100 people, 100,000 people that to get to watch this.
Yeah.
I just tell you, I wish I had somebody tell me, look, all like the failing, and you just stop being hard on yourself, because the feeling like you're not getting there, the wondering if you're ever going to get there, the insecurities of seeing somebody else who you think is there and you're not there, like all of that, that's all part of it. That's all going to come. So when that happens, don't
shy away from it.
Don't shit the bed. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, oh, fuck. Because, so, no, look, I'm all about it, man. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm honored, to be able to be a part of this, Well,
hopefully this will all blow up and then we'll just get to go. Look how much we accomplished. Then remember, that's relying on other people for validation, and then we'll just let go of that shit 30 seconds later because we know better. Anyway, man, thank you so much for doing this.
Word, man.
Word. Cool. Like the show? Consider subscribing through my Patreon at patreon.com/lifecoachingwithryan. You'll get early access to shows and potentially a host of other rewards. Want more? You can also find me streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/lifecoachingwithryan, where I play some games and I continue the conversation. I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can find me at instagram.com/educate4_life. That's where I do my book club. I record the book club episodes live on Mondays, and then I post them to IGTV. Later, I post them on YouTube. See you next time.